Thomas Sutpen is one of the central characters of Absalom by Faulkner. He's born in the mountains of West Virginia before West Virginia is a thing, and there are few people there, little socialization, almost no soil for social constructs to take root. Many things happen when he's a boy, and his family and he end up traveling out of the mountains, out of the wilderness, to the south, into southern civilization. He encounters race and class distinctions, and he doesn't think much of them other than these things are silly, because where he comes from, the only thing people are measured by is their ability. Even if people tried to create race and class distinctions out there, there are so few people, none would take hold. His detached and sort of condescending or scoffing view changes when an enslaved man dressed better than he is turns him away at the front door of this building and tells him to go around back because white trash doesn't come in the front. At this point, Sutpen is either just a teenager or about to become a teenager. But he's furious at this disrespect based on distinctions that to him shouldn't even matter, shouldn't even exist. He's not even necessarily mad at the people in these systems, he is mad at the systems themselves for existing. And that by those systems' existence, he gets disrespected and tossed lower even though he is more capable than everyone else. So Sutpen runs away, thinks about it a while, and hatches his design. Capital D, the grand design. If he attacks slaves, plantation owners, or anyone else complicit in the system, he would be attacking what he describes as balloons with laughing faces drawn on them. He wouldn't beat the problem, and he would end up killed. He discusses the way conflict worked back in the mountains. There, if people were attacking you, they would attack you with a musket. And what you would grab to attack them back is a musket. But here in the south, they are attacking you, but they are not attacking you with muskets. They are attacking you with these social constructs. So, to beat them, not to attack the wrong targets, the balloons with laughing faces drawn on them, he needs to attack them with social constructs. Beat them with their weapons. That is loosely his design. The novel is interesting because it's playing with the way history gets retold. It's written in an oral sort of way, and everyone has their own spin on what happened in Sutpen's life and why, and everyone has different details, and the mystery of the book, there are a few mysteries in the book, but the main ones are the key is trying to figure out what lines up and what makes the most sense, because you will never have the full story. Even my retelling you this is just that, it's a retelling. It's the details I remember and my interpretation of it. I bring this up, one, because it's interesting, and two, because I can't tell you the full story. I can't tell you what was going on in Sutpen's head, but this is loosely the design. To beat the system, he embeds himself in it. He becomes complicit, and he gets good at it. Every single moment of his life is dedicated to enacting this design. Every little thing he does, every little thing he says, even the relationships he has and the children he has, some of whom end up not fitting his design, unfortunately, and end up becoming his downfall because he made enemies and didn't realize it. Keywords, common themes in maybe some of my videos, something to think about. Anyway, he goes to Haiti, makes a lot of money and some renown using force. He gathers up a bunch of Haitian slaves. He brings them back to the south along with a French architect, buys 100 square miles of land, or 100 acres. I think it's 100 square miles. I don't know if they're using acres at that point. And drags the most profitable plantation in the county, maybe even in the state, out of unbuildable land. Awful swamps and marshes nobody wanted. People still don't like him because he isn't old money planter aristocrat. He keeps his slaves in check, not with racial constructs the way he is supposed to. He keeps them in line using force. Not only does he not have an aristocratic planter name, but also he refuses to talk about his past. And that scares people because anyone without a past has a potential of being black. And if they're black, ooh, that's not good. He goes through a few wives and fiancés until he gets exactly the name and children he wants. And then he forces people by force, by might, to acknowledge and respect him, but it is a socially and racially constructed might, not the might he would have preferred to use. He stomps all over the systems that disrespected him and held him back, using the very means or components of their operation. Now, of course, he and his design, his grand design, get triple fucked by someone he wronged, but I bring Thomas Sutpen up to discuss powerlessness. The systems that make people powerless and potential avenues of empowering oneself and stomping all over the thing that disempowered you. A few years ago, I would look at the world and say, that's weird, I don't like it, but I'm not part of it, and it's not part of me. And then one of those turning away moments, it wasn't a turning away moment, but it was a realizing just how powerless you are and why moments happened. If at any moment you feel you have power, feel you have control, check yourself, because if you could see the fire you're dangling over and the number of ways you can get away from it, get out of it, or even get a little control, which is zero, there are zero ways of doing any of those things in any real, concrete, lasting way. It might freak you out, realizing just how quickly human beings can end you on any level, any way they want, any way enough people want to hurt you, they can and they will if you aren't careful. And there will be nothing you can do about it when that happens. Now, I think the natural response to that is, fuck that, I'll find a way, if you've never had anything of that sort happen to you. And if you have, I think the natural response to that sort of thing is, well, I am tired of hiding like a roach in fear constantly, so there must be something I can do. That's what I've been wrestling with for a long time now. What are your defensive measures against humanity? It's not action, because the more you wiggle, the more ripples you send out across the water, and the sooner a leviathan, humankind, is going to consume you. So how do you do something without doing something? I think there are a few methods, but the method I've opted for involves typology. And conveniently, I think INTPs are best kitted for that sort of non-action, reaction, action. You could go the Thomas Sutpen grand design route, you can probably guess his MBTI type, or you could go his bastard son's route, the triple fucking of traps laid and social maneuvering. Maybe you can guess his MBTI type. But I think the best way to stand against either humanity or the systems they construct is to discover and spread destructive information. The greatest example of what I mean is Einstein, the atomic bomb. There were a ton of people involved in the Manhattan Project, but Einstein is the guy. And his theorizing gave the United States a horrifying power over the rest of the world and created generations and generations of fear. Einstein didn't do anything to anyone. He created the ultimate tool for people to do horrible things to each other. And that knowledge is never going away. Now that we have atomic power, we're stuck with it, unless we destroy ourselves. I think discovering scary information is the best sword and shield a person can ask for. Now, I've always felt powerless, and powerlessness pervades almost every aspect of my life, including sexuality, which is, I want to make a video talking about it because it got uncomfortable. You ever have one of those moments, it's like you're looking at your life from someone else's eyes? I had one of those moments. I bring it up to emphasize powerlessness. I'll talk about it at length at some point. But powerlessness is a key word, and it has doubled in its power the last couple years. It's ramped up even more recently, and I've been trying to figure out what's happening and why I'm doing it. Absalom, Thomas Sutpen and his grand design, plus MBTI are, I think, part of the key. The more you get into all the different sorts of typologies and discernment, the creepier it gets. You think, I'm an individual, I am one person of 7 billion. How do you know that specific thing about me? How is that possible? It freaked me out when I first started getting into it, but then it started making more sense. We aren't as complicated as we think we are. We seem complicated because we have no tools with which to dissect ourselves, and attempts to develop those tools are resisted. Why are those tools or those ideas resisted? Probably because it would be a scary world to live in if we had them. A few years ago, before I was consciously thinking about all this stuff from this perspective, I referred to it, to MBTI and to typology in general, typologies, with people I was close with, as the nuke, or the Manhattan Project. I called Typology those things because I saw power in it. At first, it was potentially the power to get what I wanted. When you think about it, numerically speaking, there are only so many ways human beings can act. If you factor evolutionary conditioning, cultural programming, traditions, etc., on top of those things, they narrow the number of ways any one human could potentially act even further. The fact archetypes exist at all is a testament to that. I might not come across as a positive person, but almost always there is an underlying hope and positivity. Recently, that's been there less, and I've been thinking about MBTI less as an understanding and communicating tool and more as a weapon. I've been trying to figure out the minimum number of tools an individual would need to figure out a complete stranger so completely without even knowing them enough they could hobble them somehow. If someone could figure that out in that way, that would be similar to Sutpen's grand design. That would be a means of stomping all over a system or a people stomping on you using what's already there without attacking the balloons with laughing faces drawn on them. And unlike Sutpen's grand design, that set of tools, weaponized typology, would not go away because it is not a thing built, it is information discovered. It's already there. Imagine aliens from another dimension pop in on us, for instance. They're just watching us. They stab each other in the backs, literally, as a form of greeting and nourishment. They are watching us, plotting, how are we going to beat the humans? We have no idea. And then one of them finds out, hey, stabbing a human in the back puts them 6 feet under. It takes a while for them to come to grips with it because it makes no sense to them, but eventually they start doing it and they realize it's true, and then they know how to beat us. And they'll never stop knowing how to beat us because they learned. Like Einstein, like Ben Franklin, like Prometheus, like a bunch of other people who figured some risky stuff out, whose names I don't know. But that's what I've been thinking about lately. How do you beat a system or a people? You give them the tools to ruin themselves. I am cutting back on that stuff a little bit because the fear and panic and overwhelming feelings of powerlessness are starting to go away as they do, but trying to figure out the ways individuals can command or topple social systems, not just people, but the ideas controlling them, is neat. I'm trying to figure out what I've been doing, and the book was good. I think I like Faulkner. I don't like him as much as Hemingway, but Faulkner is a cool dude. But that about rippity wraps this one up. I hope you enjoyed watching, because I certainly enjoyed making it. You don't find it weird on any level that we consider ourselves this hyper-advanced, hyper-rational society, yet we don't know what our dreams mean? We don't have rational systems for figuring out the sorts of people we are so we can chart them rationally. Now we're just gonna leave that to chance and individuality and all that. I don't know. Like if you enjoyed, because that helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't, because we do this shit sometimes, and comment your thoughts, because I love hearing from you. Here is a hypothetical for the thinky types. What information do you think is out there we could one day uncover that will fundamentally change the way humans operate, individually and as societies? Thanks again for watching, everybody. Really, we had a lot of fun on this channel. So much fun, in fact, you can read a book of all the fun and take tons of notes, do a bunch of marginalia, because it strikes you and there's something in there that you are having a hard time getting out the way you need to get it out. That's how much fun we have on this channel, and I look forward to doing this with you guys again in the future.